Thank you, everyone, for being here on this chilly day. I know our brothers and sisters in Israel appreciate it. Last weekend, I had the opportunity to travel to Israel including one that had landed earlier that day. While we were standing outside of the police quarters, the siren went off, alerting the residents to an incoming missile. When an alarm is heard in Sderot, you have 15 seconds, they say, to get to a place of safety. Fortunately, the police headquarters were reinforced, and we were quickly ushered inside. Moments later, we heard a very large boom, and the building shook. We learned almost immediately that the rocket had hit about a block away. When they say 15 seconds, they mean 15 seconds and no more. Fortunately, it landed in the street. Nobody suffered a physical injury. It was a close call. I knew I was safe. I also knew I was leaving the next day. The citizens of Sderot, as well as those in Ashkelon, where I visited later that evening, and in other cities throughout the south of Israel, can't leave. They must suffer the constant attacks from Hamas every day. Nobody should have to live under that siege day after day, year after year. After exhibiting patience beyond measure, Israel concluded that its only choice was to protect its citizens. Now, the amazing thing that I found when I was in Sderot and in Ashkelon was that no resident that I met expressed any resentment towards their neighbors in Gaza. All of them, to a person, expressed a desire to live in peace and to resume the cooperation that had taken place in prior years. They want to have friendly relations, but they know that to do so, the rocket fire on Israel must stop, and it must stop now. I also had the opportunity to meet with Israel's political leadership. They are united in their defense of a safe and secure Israel. Their demands are simple: no more rocket fire, and an end to the resupply of arms to Hamas by smuggling through the tunnels. Israel has no territorial ambitions. It only wants a peaceful existence. Israelis want to be able to live their lives without the intrusion of rocket fire from Gaza. For all of the experts on TV and in the media, I say, the issue is not complex. It is simple. It requires no detailed analysis. All people of goodwill must insist that Hamas stop firing rockets. In 1948, the State of Israel became a nation. It is the Jewish homeland. The people who reside there have the same right to live in peace and dignity as any other people in the world. The days when Jews will be forced to accept differential treatment have ended. We have been under attack for 8 years. We have waited long enough to respond. By our presence at this rally, we are telling our brothers and sisters in Israel that they do not stand alone. End the shelling now. End the importation of weaponry now. Support Israel's right to defend itself until its neighbors are prepared to live with it in peace.
I'm Midge Perlman-Shafton, Chair of JUF's Jewish Community Relations Council, our community's umbrella body for 46 Jewish organizations. It often feels like Israel is isolated, but because her cause is just, and because of all of our advocacy work, our beloved United States is a bastion of support. Just listen to the headlines of last week's editorials in our 2 major local newspapers. The Tribune's headline was, "Hamas gets its wish." And the Sun-Times said, "Hamas started the fight, Israel has to finish it." That understanding is shared by most of our fellow Americans. For example, Henry Bader, Executive Director of AFSCME, Council 31, comprised of 75,000 union members, wrote us, "No nation would tolerate wanton rocket attacks on its civilians. The world must act to stop these attacks and prevent the rearming of Hamas terrorists. We have also received strong messages from the Illinois congressional delegation. They also indicated that they very much wanted to be with us, but Congress, like the Illinois House, is in special session today. Senator Dick Durbin wrote, "I understand and support Israel's defense of its borders from rocket attacks by Hamas. The Palestinian people deserve leadership that is committed to bringing an end to this violence." Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky wrote, "Israel's response is completely understandable. For years, the children of Sderot have been terrorized by these attacks and forced to live in fear." Congressman Mark Kirk wrote, "Hamas is a terrorist organization responsible for the murders of at least 26 American citizens. There can be no moral equivalency between a terrorist organization and a democratically elected government defending its citizens." Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. said, "We must stand in support of our friend Israel as it defends itself against Hamas' unrelenting rocket attacks." With us today are Illinois State Controller Dan Hines, State Senator Jeff Schoenberg, Cook County Commissioner Mike Quigley, and Alderman Robert Fioretti from the 2nd Ward. Let's give a warm and sunny welcome to Illinois State Controller Dan Hines.
Thank you very much. I'm proud to be here today to stand in solidarity with our ally, Israel. Once again, Israel stands at a bloody crossroad of history. But it didn't have to be this way. In 2005, Israel decided the pathway to lasting peace was to give the Palestinian people a sovereign territory of its own. To that end, Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza. No settlements, no military checkpoints, no hidden consequences. All they left behind was an infrastructure capable of seeding future prosperity. But the new rulers of this land were not interested in prosperity. They destroyed the engines of economic growth. They built no institutions upon which their society could flourish. Instead, they fed their people a daily diet of hatred. They tunneled into Israel to kidnap its citizens. They riddled the despoiled land with terror bases to plan the unprovoked launching of thousands of rockets into Israel. And finally, putting their darkest angels to work, they placed those weapons in and around the homes of their own women and children, maximizing the chances of civilian casualties. Throughout the course of these events, Israel has wanted just one thing: peaceful coexistence with its neighbors in Gaza. Hamas, it is clear, also wants one thing: the eradication of Israel. Given its own military inferiority, that means a continual state of terror and indiscriminate acts of violence against the Israeli people. Today, I stand with Israel. And I stand with the United States Senate, which yesterday reaffirmed Israel's inalienable right to defend itself against attacks from Gaza. And I agree with Senator Harry Reid, who asked his colleagues to imagine how they would react if rockets were being fired from Toronto, Canada, into Buffalo, New York. I think we all know the answer to that. Israel must prevail in this conflict. If it does not, a lasting peace will remain out of reach. Thank you for being here for Israel.